Another flexible project is a music hall in the south of China. And it also should be as flexible or as much variety as music itself has. And we created this space that the facade can fully open when there is an event happening, or it can fully close when nothing is happening. And the same flexibility also in the interior design. So when it's closed up, you have 3 different spaces. But if the demand is there, if there is a large concert, for example, or an exhibition, then it can fold down and more people then are integrated into one large space. A little side project we initiated by ourselves is a little vacation home. You close it up when you're not there, you open it up when you're there, and you turn it and create then 50% more interior space than you have before. We also work together with a company called Bigatia, who is producing furniture for interior spaces. Real estate prices are rising, so I think it needs also for the interior design strategies of how you can build more function on smaller scales. And you also can bring this sense of flexibility also to our cities, that architecture itself can respond to what is happening in its surrounding. So, for example, this is the museum, the Bauhaus Museum in Germany, in Dessau, and it can react to different kind of things. So, for example, during the winter, it can close up the park, because the park during winter is more like a dead land. When there are public painting events or outdoor cinemas, it can turn their public, it can rotate their public areas to the right position. Or for public viewing for the Football World Cup when Germany is losing against Austria. Or as a backdrop on music festivals, for example. But that architecture is not something static, that's something rigid in the city, but it can interact with its surrounding. And this is also the starting point for this project. It's the first time I'm showing that project. I think that flexibility is something extremely important for our generation. I think that our generation is more flexible than the generation of our parents, and I think the next generation will be more flexible than us today. So cheap air travel, for example, or the internet is connecting the whole world. I was able to open an architecture studio in Beijing, for example. My dad would not have been possible to do that, not because he was all the time climbing on mountains, but because it was just not a thing you did back then. And I think this flexibility of generation, it will go further. And architecture is in no way responding to any of these flexibilities of new generation. The main idea of this project came when my wife and me were looking for a house. So my dad, he died like 4 years ago now, and we moved back to Austria, my wife and me, to be closer then to my mom. We were trying to look for a house. But we had to think of all of those necessary uncertainties in a way. So we had to think, okay, how many children do we want to have? Maybe 2. Does my mom maybe one day live with us? Do we get a dog? Are we working from home? Do we have a home office? How many employees do we want to have? So all of this maximum of space, we already needed to take in consideration of doing a house when we bought it. So we thought, wouldn't it be nice if architecture can respond to all of those different life choices you make? Because your life is flexible. It changes from one day to the next. So why shouldn't architecture actually respond and adapt to all those changes? So for example, we took a look how many square meters each of us needs in what position of life. So for example, as a student, you can start with a very small one. And then you can grow your house when you get children and get smaller again when you get old. And this is how it, what the idea behind is. So there is a unit which is basically 1.2 meters as a unit. A guy is buying it for his student dwelling. He meets a girl, they get married, so they move together. And after they move together, they get a kid, the first kid. Then the house extends again because their mom moves in and they get a dog, for example. And then the guy wins an architectural competition, thinks he's the best architect in the world, and builds builds his office on top. Way over-motivated, and the project dies, has to re-shrink to a normal size of a project, retires at a certain point, and when you get old, your knees don't work so well anymore, so you build a dwelling without any stairs, so a pavilion kind of structure.